Hey everybody, what's going on? AMF1534 here, just stopping by to say, hey, I haven't really gotten the opportunity to talk with you guys really since late December when I moved out to my new place over here. And since I've had a pretty tumultuous start to the year, I had the flu for 3 weeks, and so that pretty much put me out of commission for a while, and then everything's just been pretty hectic ever since then. I haven't really had the opportunity to give you guys a formal tour of my new little office of operation that you see before you. That's still half of an office and not really much a gaming center, but hey, it's getting the job done. So I figure since I have some spare time, finally, I would give you guys the tour of this place, and I got something that I want to show you guys right after I get done with that. So let's do it here, you know. So as you can see, I got my little collection of games, ever growing, of course. It's nothing too crazy. I mean, I've only got just a few shelves worth of stuff here, but hey, got to start from somewhere, so why not? Now, let's just pick up the old laptop here. I apologize if this gets really janky from here because it's not like it's a great camera or anything, and I'm holding a laptop and not a camera, so that's just how it goes. So as you can see, right down there, we got my my PC with the lovely Leah Michelle headlining my my background because, hey, that's just what you gotta do. You gotta have the inspiration to film, you know? So that's where all the good stuff happens there. A little bit further over, that's where I got my TV and my PS4, because, hey, I mean, what would a gaming office be without something to do while I'm waiting for everything to render and upload? So I'm actually going to be, this next week here, I'm going to be dealing with, working on some stuff with my HD PVR and some Destiny footage, so I think I'll probably do that on Wednesday, just because that's when my next day off is, so we'll mess around with it when we get the time for it. Flip around right over here, and this is actually where I've got, sorry, this is going to be really, really wonky. Yeah, there we go. So this is up here is where I've got my semi-organized pile of systems up there, and my awesome Oregon mailbox, just because, hey, Oregon's awesome, and that's all you gotta know. And then just a random assortment of unpacked shit because I don't have the room to put all of it, and that's how that goes. So, what do, you know? But that, my friends, is not the entire reason why I brought you here. The main reason why I brought you here, and I've been waiting for this for a little while now. I want to show you guys my brand new addition to my family of consoles and just generally awesome stuff. And this right now, this is kind of my token item in my collection, so let me, ladies and gentlemen, introduce to you the lovely and wonderful TurboGrafx-16, or as it was known in Japan as the PC Engine. So this is a system that I have wanted to get my hands on for many, many, many years. It's really, really cool. One of my coworkers that I used to work with, it was probably about 7 or 8 years ago, was telling me about when he used to have one of these when he was younger, and he was just telling me about all the cool games for it, and so ever since then, I've been wanting to get my hands on it, but the price for it was always really unreasonable, and I mean, I get it. I mean, they weren't really a huge hit in America, so they've been relatively hard to find, and prices for these things were sitting right around $500 or $600. So it was the kind of thing that, you know, I didn't really have that type of available money to work with, but I found this awesome website called New Wave Traders, and these guys had just a complete system like this with a controller, the power source, and all, and you know, the adapter, the AV adapter, for $120. So with that, I was just like, hey, I'm buying it right now, not even hesitating whatsoever. And so I didn't. I did not hesitate at all. And so now I've got one of these babies in my possession, and as it sits right now, this is pretty much my prized possession. So it's awesome. And I'll get to the games in a minute, because I did manage to get a couple of games for this thing. Separately, of course. There was no way in hell I was going to be able to get you know, this and 2 games for $120 unless I got extremely lucky. So for those of you that do not know anything about this system, which you know, maybe some people do, some people don't, I will give you a little bit of a backstory on it. So, believe it or not, well, this system was designed in joint efforts by Hudson and NEC, and this, believe it or not, was actually the very first 16-bit console ever produced. Yes, you heard it here first. or probably other places. But yes, this was the very first 16-bit console. It uses a custom 8-bit CPU, which it was actually initially designed to compete with the NES. It was kind of around the end of the NES's life. So it had the custom 8-bit CPU, but it had a 16-bit graphics chip in it. So even though it was designed initially to compete with the NES, it actually ended up competing with the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis, or the Mega Drive, or whatever you want to call it. So even though it had the 8-bit CPU, it actually was just as fast as the Super Nintendo and the Mega Drive. So even though it was lacking in some parts, as far as like special hardware capabilities were concerned, it actually stood up pretty well, at least in Japan, because NEC America totally dropped the ball as far as like American sales went for this thing here, which is why it is fairly hard to find around here. So it's actually a neat little system. I mean, if you look at it here, it only has one controller port in it, so if you want to play any multiplayer games with this, you actually have to get a multi-tap, which the multi-tap in itself is also really interesting because it has 5 open slots on it. I don't know how many 6-player games there are for the TurboGrafx-16, and so that's just kind of an interesting amount of open slots to have for that. The power switch is kind of cool because I'm sorry, I'm doing this backwards. So it actually you saw that little locking mechanism right there. Kind of a nifty little thing. This game, it's as you can see, the type of cartridges that it takes are very different from what you would see with like the regular NES at the time, or obviously Super Nintendo with these big honking things. This used what they called hue cards. So they're little things here. I'll show you what that looks like here in a few minutes, because I've got some games that we can show off. And then on the back, believe it or not, this part of it actually comes off. So you pop that thing off there, and on the side, this is where you've got this is where the adapter goes. You've got the channel 3, channel 4 little switch thing there, and then down here is where the power supply plugs into. So it's really weird. Like you don't really see a lot of systems where you can just pop this thing off, but it is nice to have that there because it totally makes it more aesthetically pleasing. And then down here we've got the expansion bay here. They did have a little CD attachment thing there. They had what the hell did they call it? I think it was just called like the PC Engine CD-ROM expansion thing that you could put on there, and they had a limited library of games for that. So that was something that you could put in with that, and you could have all the extra thing there. They ended up actually replacing this later on with they had they called it the Turbo Duo, which was just pretty much the updated system that you could play the hue cards and the CD-ROM versions just in one console without having to have extra peripherals for it. So that was kind of the whole deal behind that. So let me show you a couple of games here. That's actually the hardest part of this whole thing here, is finding games for this thing. That's really where the challenge came in, because you go and you browse around on Amazon for these babies, and some of them are fairly inexpensive. The 2 that I got my hands on were only about a combined $20 bucks. But there are a couple of them out there, man. Oh my god. There was one, and it's extremely rare, so I understand. It's like $2,500. I can't remember the name of it offhand right now. I want to say it's called Magical Chase. So that one, pretty rare, really expensive. But other than that, in general, you're looking anywhere between, at the time right now, between about $35 to $100, just depending on the title. But they've got a lot of great games. Like one of the big strengths of the TurboGrafx was the fact that it had a lot of really good quality 2D shooters. That was one thing that Hudson, who developed the bulk of the games for this system, they did a really good job with that. So if side-scrolling shooters and shoot-'em-ups are your style, you got to get one of those, because they've got them by the bunch. So a couple of the games that I picked up here, they're both racing games, because those seem to be the lesser expensive ones that were available at the time. So I got Final Lap Twin, which this is an interesting game actually. It's it is kind of your standard, you know, little Formula One racing style game, but it actually has some RPG elements in it, and I will actually show you some gameplay of this here in a few minutes. And so I'll show you the whole thing with the hue cards. They're really interesting. On the inside, it actually comes in like a little plastic sleeve. So these things are really cool looking. This is it's actually kind of one of my favorite looking cartridges for a game. Just a little tiny thing here. So you just for the system, just pop that little bad boy in there, if it'll cooperate, and then you turn it on, and this thing will lock it in, so it's not going to be going anywhere. So it's super cool. It's a really nifty little thing there. And then the other game that I managed to get my hands on, let me get this thing back in the sleeve here. I'm not trying to get a bunch of dirt all over the place, because this room is a little bit musty. The other one here I picked up, it just actually came in the mail today, so I was really excited because it wasn't supposed to get here till Monday, is Victory Run, another little nifty racing game. Don't know quite as much about this one, but it was one that it was only about $7. It says $14.99, but that is a total lie, because that is not what I bought it for. So yeah, they're both pretty cool. So what we're going to do right now is I will show you some gameplay of this. Even though we're not going to be able to do it in here, I will have to go plug it in my bedroom, because that's where I've got the rest of it set up right now. I had to test one of these out just to make sure everything was in working order, and it was. So we'll go check that out here in just a minute. So I will see you there. Alright, so here we are in my room, and got the whole thing all plugged in and ready to go here. By the way, this is my room. Nothing crazy in here either. Keep in mind, this is my grandma's house, so my choice of wallpaper, yeah, that's what we're stuck with for a little while. And all the floral for my bed. You bet. So there's my Pops collection up there on the top. Kind of growing that thing up as well. Picked up this Super Saiyan Goku joint yesterday, along with this little Walter White joint right there. And this was my birthday present from my friend Matty. He freehand painted this little mushroom. So pretty sweet. Pretty awesome stuff there. So what we're going to do is we're gonna check out a couple of these TurboGrafx games on this awesome Toshiba TV here. Just because that's how it is. Even though I won't actually show the gameplay here, I'm gonna cut to a little emulated thing here, just because it'd be virtually impossible for me to play with one hand because I'm using my iPhone. So you know how that goes. So we're gonna start off with Victory Run here with this lovely little guy. Oh, here's the controller, by the way. This is the turbo pad. Only downside is that the cord for this, not very long. It's pretty short. But this is a nifty little gamepad here. It's actually really interesting that instead of having select and start, you have, I'm sorry, it's blurry, but you have select and run, which is particularly interesting. And it's a 2-button controller. Well, 4, I guess, but instead of having A and B, you have 1 and 2. The cool thing here, though, is you have a built-in turbo function for both buttons. So you have off here, and you have slow, and I believe it's fast or high. It's one of the two of those. So that's kind of a cool thing, that your stock controller actually has built-in turbo capabilities instead of having to have a special one for the same thing. So even though it's competitors, Super Nintendo had 4 main buttons with the L and R shoulders, and then the Genesis either had the 3 or 6 button ones. So they are actually able to do a lot with just 2 buttons. It's remarkable, really. So that's what's up with that. So without further ado, let's go check out Victory Run for the TurboGrafx. Okay, so here we go. We got Victory Run right here. It's kind of a very similar game to like Rad Racer for the NES, or the Genesis had Outrun. So this is kind of a similar game to that sort of thing. It's like kind of your arcade-style rally racer. There's 8 stages in this game. You kind of start off with putting in your little registration thing here. This is the really cool thing about this game. And it's kind of like, I wouldn't really say like an RPG element, I guess is what I said earlier. That's technically not really correct, but what you can do here is you can pick support parts that you can use over the course of this whole thing, and you can, and pretty much what happens here is after you finish a race, any one of these parts that you have, broken down or destroyed, you can actually replace them with, in any combination here, but you have to choose wisely, because once you choose your little split of things you want here, you can't change them again after that. So you you kind of have to learn your own play style and figure out what types of things that you're breaking down on a regular basis. So, really cool, interesting element to that whole thing. And so, as you can see here, you kind of have the whole sort of, you know, Rad Racer Outrun type of layout here. And so, here we go. So it's a nifty little thing. It kind of everything runs really smooth. The controls are nice and responsive. The music very you know, very calm. Sounds nice. The speed looks nice and smooth. It's not choppy. The scaling looks good. Even the scrolling, even though it's a little bit choppy back there, the presentation is still pretty good. So, I mean, I would say that is it better than Rad Racer? Is it better than Outrun? Maybe not. I mean, Rad Racer is a classic, and I mean, obviously Outrun speaks for itself, but you know what? It's pretty good. The nice thing with this, as you can see with the timer up there, is, I'll try to show you as we get there. Oh god. Oh god. Oh god. Got myself into a bad spot there. Is, once you finish a race, if you can finish a race, any extra time that you have left, at the end of it, you'll get tacked on as extra. And so, as the races get longer and more difficult, you can actually tap into that reserved time. It really comes in handy to have it there. Actually, having a pretty rough go here. Normally, I'm pretty good at racing games, but this one, I mean, seeing as it's only the second time that I've ever played it, a little bit rough around the edges here. So, I'd like to at least get through this first race here, but my god, I am doing so awful. Oh wow, I didn't notice that would happen there. That's actually really cool. That was something I did not expect. That cool little, you know, shading and kind of day and night cycle. That is another thing I forgot about this. This game does have a, not necessarily like a full day and night cycle by regular, you know, time, obviously, but really cool that it has that little extra element in there. We've got to be getting somewhere close to the end of this. I'm not really sure because I've been doing so poorly that that's kind of my own fault. See, as you can see, it's now starting to dip into my little vault of reserve time that I had there. So, yeah, I guess we'll leave it right there before I, you know, waste too much time here. So, that, my friends, is kind of the general concept of Victory Run. So, yeah, pretty nifty little game there, but, before I end the whole thing here, let's also check out Final Lap Twin. This was the first one I picked up. I got to play this one a little bit last night, so let's check this one out as well. So you guys can see kind of some of the other capabilities here. Dun dun dun! And here is Final Lap Twin. This was the first one that I bought, so I've already had a little bit of previous experience here. So, a couple different game modes. Like I told you, there's this little quest thing down here. I'll show you just a teensy bit of that, just because this has already taken a little bit longer than I thought. So, like I said, it is kind of your general split-screen F1 race. Wow, what the hell was that all about? That was pretty weird. Keep in mind, this is an emulated version, so that's going to happen sometimes, but... So like I said, it's just kind of a very straightforward sort of thing. I'm just doing the little test run here just so you can see kind of what it looks like. The graphics for this aren't quite as good as the graphics for Victory Run, but it runs really, really smooth. Again, the controls are very responsive. Definitely a nice little treasure to have out there. When you're actually doing real races against people, it gets pretty hectic. It's there's just people all over the place, and the rival car that you have to play against is actually pretty tough. So it's interesting. The nice cool thing about TurboGrafx games that I noticed is that you can do a quick hard reset if you hit start, if you hit run and then select. So kind of a nifty little thing there, in case you're ever wondering. So here's the quest mode. What the hell? Yep, that's that right there. Just, I mean, sure. I don't know anything of what's going on here. If I remember correctly, it's something about like oh, I don't remember. I read about the storyline of this a couple days ago, but I don't remember it. Something about like your dad wants you to like avenge his honor or something like that. I don't remember. In the way of racing. So, I'm probably totally wrong on that. I totally watched a video of this just like 2 days ago about like what the storyline of this was, but it's really not super important. So,
So this is kind of the whole thing here. We got like a bunch of candy canes out there, which is really weird. It kind of has like this whole top-down, you know, overworld thing. Really reminds me a lot of like Dragon Warrior for the NES. That's one. Wow, that guy's face is creepy. So I mean, if this were in English and I can actually read it, I mean, obviously you can go around, you can talk to people, you can pick up races. And you can, when you complete those races, you can... Oh my god, I can't see anything that's going on. So you pick up races. When you win these things, you can actually improve the stats on your car. And you just slowly build it up from there, and you get money and all these cool things. So it's fun stuff. There's a lot of replay value here. Just you know, being able to play the game in its full entirety, and just having the two modes to play with really kind of gives it that extra little thing there. So I think it's nifty. It's could it have had better graphics? Sure, but hey, we already know that hey, graphics isn't always what makes the game. All you have to have is just a all you have to have is just a game that plays well and that it's one that you can enjoy, and that's all that really matters. So there, yeah, it's a nice little addition to my collection, or at least a good way to start it off. So I'm pretty excited about it. Oh yeah, I know exactly what that guy's saying. So yeah, that's a little bit of what Final Lap Twin is all about. So yeah, maybe someday, look in the future, I might do maybe I might do a series of this if I can find the English version, or find a way to record stuff directly off of my TurboGrafx. So yep, there's Final Lap Twin, my friends.
So yeah, guys, that was pretty much the whole thing there. I'm going to be slowly building that collection. It's going to be a very tedious process just because those games are kind of spendy, so I've got to be really selective on how I get them. But some games that I want to pick up for that in the near future, I want to get Raiden, great shoot-'em-up game. I want to get Blazing Lasers is another really awesome shooter. That's kind of the main one I want to get, but it's sitting at about like $150 right now, so that's going to be a tough one. Let's see, there's a game called Special Criminal Investigation, which is pretty much like a clone of Chase HQ. So that's a really cool one. As you guys saw on my channel last year, I did a Let's Play of Newtopia, which is one of the few RPG games on this system. So I'd like to get my hands on that, but also another fairly pricey one. And there's a couple other, there's some platformer games out there like Bonk's Adventure. I want to get maybe one or two of the games in there. There's some interesting little like puzzle games like Crater Maze would be a pretty cool one. There's a lot of different choices out there. So as I get new additions to the collection, I'll let you guys know. But other than that, thanks for stopping by and checking out my new little addition. Sorry, I've got kind of janky filming equipment for that endeavor, but I did the best that I could do with what I've got. So yeah, other than that, I will. Thanks for stopping by and watching, and I'll see you back in my regular videos. So you guys take it easy, and I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.